Yes, good evening, everyone, and welcome to DarkWoods Paranormal, where every haunted destination begins with the thrill of the story and the people we meet along the way. I, of course, am your humble and good-looking host, Gabriel Von Graves. Everybody applause. Yeah.
Yay! Woohoo!
And joining me, as always, is Raven Knight, who
Yay!
Hi, Raven.
Thank you, Philip.
Philip,
I appreciate it. Ah,
whose passion for paranormal investigation and thoughtful perspective helps bring every discussion to life. Together, we're honored you choose to spend your evening with us, Raven. Thank you very much. Before we
ha.
welcome tonight's guest, we'd like to thank the amazing sponsors that help make this show possible. First, 3J Hot Sauce from our boys from where, Raven?
You know what? Actually,
Dark Realm
Ohio.
TV. Okay.
Well, I was gonna say, oh, I thought you were asking. Two of them are from Ohio. One of them is from Wisconsin. Dark Realm
Silk
TV.
Room TV, yes. Whether you just want a little kick or enough heat to wake the spirits, 3J Hot Sauce delivers incredible flavor in every bottle. We appreciate the support of independent creators and paranormal programming like this. We'd also like to thank Unbox Media LLC at Unbox Media. We believe every business organization and creator has a story worth telling. From professional podcast production and commercial media to business consulting, branding, marketing, strategy, policy development, and creative content. Unbox Media helps businesses grow, whether sharing their message with the world, whether you're launching a new company, expanding your brand, or creating your own podcast. Unbox Media is committed to bringing your vision to life, professionalism, and creativity. And of course, thank you to everyone of you for watching us live and listening later. Your support has taken us across historic haunted locations, abandoned buildings, paranormal conversations, interviews, and investigations from around the country. And with people who've experienced the unexplained firsthand, none of that would be possible without our wonderful community. Thank you guys for joining us. Now, tonight, we're exploring two passions that seem completely different, but may have more in common than what most people would realize. The paranormal asks us what's hiding in the darkness around us. Astrophotography asks us what's waiting in the darkness above us. Both require patience, both require curiosity, and both remind us that there is still so much we don't fully understand. Our guest tonight is Philip Gibson. Philip began investigation in the paranormal in 2017 after being inspired by classics like The Poltergeist, along the television favorites Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures. He co-founded Heart City Paranormal in Elkhart, Indiana, before eventually continuing his investigations on his own. That's fantastic. His greatest investigative passion is EVP, communication, captured voices, and possible responses that challenge what we think we know about the world around us. When he's not exploring haunted locations, Phil points his cameras towards the night sky, creating stunning long exposure images of deep space. Objects including the Orion Nebula, I said that wrong,
Oh,
the
Ryan.
Galaxy Zeta region, this is not good for me, and the North American Nebula. I like it.
Nebula.
Tonight, we'll discuss both of these fascinating hobbies and ask an interesting question. Does spending thousands of hours listening to silence and staring into the darkness teach us something about the unknown? Ladies and gentlemen, please help us welcome Philip. Welcome, Philip. Tell us about yourself, my friend.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
First of all,
Yeah.
I want to say before you start, Philip, um, you and I, we actually made sure that those words were hard to pronounce for Gabriel because I paid you to put that in your bio. Yeah, yeah, I paid him big bucks, like $20, and he put that in the bio for me.
I would have paid you $40, Philip, not to do it, man. You are my friend.
I would have paid you 60 to do it twice.
Going once,
Well,
going
Phil,
twice. Sold.
no. Philip, tell us about yourself. It's so fascinating that you investigate the sky and the unknown around us. I think that's amazing. Tell us a little bit about how you get started and what your passions are behind these two subjects.
Well, first I want to say that the intro was amazing, Gabriel. I mean, I'm gonna prep him up here, man. That was great. That's probably one of the
That's
best
great.
intros I've ever heard of any podcast I've ever been on. So kudos to you.
Oh,
And
thank you, brother. Thank you.
as far as the paranormal, yeah, like my bio said, The interest started, as early as the 80s, with the original Poltergeist movie. That was what really kind of started the ball rolling as far as the interest in the paranormal. And I stayed interested all these years. And finally, in the mid 2000s, with the shows like, Ghost Hunters, the original Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures, I started, seeing, real life paranormal investigating, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. I remember sitting on the couches on the couch on Thursday nights, couldn't wait for the new episode of Ghost Hunters to come on, and I watched. And I'm gonna tell you one episode that kind of sealed the deal for me and made me say, you know what, I want to do this one day. Was the St. Augustine Lighthouse episode of Ghost Hunters.
Where they saw the body going, that figure looking over the bed.
Oh my gosh!
I remember that one.
That was the one, and that was the episode that really made me want to do what I'm doing today. And it's to this day, it's my favorite episode. And every time I see it come on, every time I see it on TV, I gotta watch it. And eventually, I watched. I lived at the time. I lived in what I believe was a haunted house. I had some weird experiences, during the, at that house. And one of the instances happened when I was watching, Ghost Hunters on TV, and lights were flickering on and off, and I was even kind of trying to use, logic and backing up. I was like, okay, was that possible paranormal, or was that bad electric or whatever? Obviously, because I got that from the Ghost Hunters. They always liked debunking stuff back in the day, and watching Ghost Hunters and then Ghost Adventures kind of got me to the point where I'm like, I want to do this one day. That sounds like fun. But I was like, I never had anybody people were interested in it, but nobody that I knew was interested in investigating. It wasn't until about 2016 or so. I had a buddy of mine who said, hey, you want to, we got this little goat, we have this little team here. You want to join us? I'm like, yeah, maybe. I think I might. And I never did. And, 2017 came rolling around, and me and my friend got together. We both had an interest in the paranormal, both had experiences, at least what we thought were experiences. And we're like, why don't we create a team? We both enjoyed the paranormal TV and stuff. And so let's go ahead and get together and create a team. So we created Heart City Paranormal out of Elkhart, Indiana. And we started, investigating cemeteries, and we got a really active cemetery locally called Graceland Cemetery. We've, over the years, that place has just been, oh my gosh, it's one, it's probably the most active cemetery I've ever been to. I don't really investigate a lot of cemeteries anymore because I do more locations, more houses, more stuff like that. But 2017 we started the team and we investigated cemeteries, and we finally did our first indoor investigation at a place called the Bristol Opera House in Bristol, Indiana. It was a nice milestone.
Yeah.
And so we continued to investigate over the years, and then what we discussed in the before we went on the air about me getting involved in things that didn't pertain to me. And it kind of ruined put a kind of a damper on my passion. And it kind of made me take a hiatus. Mm-hmm. And I took the hiatus and came back again. I got right back in that same routine, getting involved in paranormal drama that didn't pertain nothing to me. And it just started steamrolling after that. And, I finally decided to go ahead and took another hiatus and pretty much said I was going to step away for a while. Then my remaining teammates went ahead and created another team. I said, I didn't hold it against them. I didn't want them to wait around for me, so, it's not fair to them. And so I went ahead and took a hiatus, and they created another team. And I finally got my head on straight and realized what I was doing was, it's taken my passion away from me. And I finally got my head on straight and started, doing things that, doing what I wanted to do, and worrying about me and myself, and it brought that passion back again, and it's one of those things where I wish I would have wish I'd have got my head on straight earlier, but like I said, it's never too late. There's always and the people I knew, and the friends I made in the paranormal field, they saw it, and they had a few bits of advice for me, and I took some of it, and some of it I just let it fall by the wayside, and finally, like I said, it clicked, and I thank those people for being by my side and not abandoning me and and steering me the wrong direction. They cared about, they saw the passion I had in the field, and they helped me out, and I really appreciate that. And that's as far as the paranormal is. Then the astrophotography, it happened during the time when I was kind of on my hiatus, and I've always had a love for the universe, always had a love for space, and always had a love for the stars and the cosmos. And I watching YouTube videos and watching tutorials, I'm like, man, this looks like fun, man. And so I went out and after investing many hundreds and thousands of dollars into the paranormal, as far as equipment and booking locations, I spent even more getting involved in the astrophotography field, because trust me, it can get much more expensive than the paranormal. And you got telescopes that cost $8,000, $9,000, $10,000, which I do not have. I went the cheap route, but that's the great thing about both the paranormal and astrophotography is there's a budget for everybody, and I think everybody has a seat at the table when it comes to the paranormal and astrophotography. You can go in just bare bones with a recorder and a camera, or you can go in with DVR cameras and high tech devices and all that stuff like that. And you can still have a great time and enjoy yourself. And same thing with the astrophotography. It's you can go in with a DSLR lens and a camera lens, and like a cheap little tripod or something like that. You might not be able to get great the results that you can with a certified dedicated astro camera and these giant telescopes and stuff like that. But man, you know what? You could catch some great stuff, by just going out there and pointing your camera at the sky. And that's what it started with me. I started with my phone, I started with my phone, and it progressed to, star trackers and camera lenses and like I said, there's a budget for everybody. There's a seat at the table for everybody when it comes to both the paranormal and astrophotography. So.
That's great.
That's awesome. So I see your T-shirt says "I speak EVP." So
I love your shirt. I love your
yeah,
shirt.
I do. So tell people what EVP is and how it was developed. Do you know how it was developed? Do you know the history of it at all?
I mean, not really. No.
Well, that's all right. Neither do I. I was hoping you'd educate me. No, that's fine. So tell me what EVPs, my friend.
EVPs.
Electronic voice phenomena.
Yes.
You can get it off of camcorder audios. You can get it off of cheap trinket $10 $30 recorders, or you can get it with the high tech zooms and I started off using a phone with my recordings, which is still a great. I still use my phone occasionally, and but I've progressed and bought some Zoom recorders, which I absolutely love. But yeah, EVPs, you can, it's just it's phenomena that, of voices that are there,
right,
but they shouldn't be. And we don't know what, the whole ins and outs. We don't know exactly how it all works. I know it's there. And I mean, there's also, there's pareidolia as well. We all know that. We got to be careful and, know our surroundings and know how to tag audio and, when we hear things and, because, you're in the moment, listen to these, sounds inside the house, but, you're in a house for, 8, 10, 12 hours, 2 days, 3 days. You have no idea, 3 days later, a week later, when you go through the audio, you're like, I thought I heard that, but what was it? That's why we like tag an audio. You know, as we go, we hear a noise. Okay, that was my stomach growling, or
Yeah.
or that was a creaking, or sound like a creaking board, or a bird outside. You know, but you know, on audio, you know, when you're listening to audio, when it comes to EVPs and stuff, you know, there's sounds that could sound, you know, what they call audio pareidolia. You know, you can hear things that you think that are familiar to you, and you put it, you know, into your audio, and your mind is like, okay, it sounds familiar. You know, people are looking for, you know, okay, maybe that was a ghost, but you know, it's great to tag audio. It helps you out, you know, a week later when you listen to your audio, you're like, okay, I tagged it, so obviously it wasn't anything paranormal.
Which makes sense. I mean, you hear a noise, you're like, yep, that was upstairs, or, you know, at 6:37, noise heard. I don't know what it is, something like
Yeah.
that. I think you have to do that. Now,
You
one
have to.
thing that I've experimented with a little bit was using a regular tape recorder.
Oh yeah, I
Because,
have one.
yeah, because it's a different device. It
Oh,
records differently, and I think that so we have a friend called Johnny Vortex, and he
I,
builds these electronic devices, and he has a theory that they're very loud to the paranormal world, right?
mhm.
Because they do kind of resonance a hum, and by using like the old tape recorders, stuff like that, I think that we've seen evidence that it records differently and it records a different spectrum of sounds that maybe the newer versions just don't. Have you experimented with that at all yet?
I do have a cassette recorder that records analog.
Mhm.
I've used it 2 or 3 times. The first time I used it, I made a mistake. It didn't turn my mic on, and when I went, yeah, and
Hey, it kind of helps record stuff, you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, and the second time I recorded, I didn't catch anything. I didn't record the whole night with it. I used my Zoom for most of the night, but I did have a couple sessions with the cassette recorder. I didn't capture anything notable that I would consider paranormal. And the third time, I don't believe I caught anything either. Like I said, as I said, I didn't use it a whole lot. I didn't use it for long periods of time, maybe 15, 20 minutes at a time. I didn't capture anything as far as what I would call paranormal on either session. It's sitting in my other box right now in storage, so I haven't used it in probably 3 or 4 years, probably.
Wow.
It kind of makes me want to get it back out again, actually, now that I think about it.
And also the old analog video recorders too. I mean, it's just a different platform to record things on.
Mhm.
I
The
think it's
Bill.
always,
And the cool thing about those cassette recorders is they have devices now that you could actually record. And they've had them out for a while, but you could take your audio from your cassette recorders and make them into MP3s,
sure.
and kind of, which is kind of cool,
Yeah, it is.
So I want to ask you, because we were talking about EVPs. I've had the pleasure of capturing a couple of myself, which is always kind of exciting. But I want to know about maybe the first time. Let's talk about the first time you ever caught an EVP and like what it was, and tell us the story behind it. And then let's go from there first, and then we can kind of dive into your very best evidence after that.
Okay, yeah, great. The first time I caught the first EVP I captured would have been probably my second investigation in 2017. It would have been at Gracelawn Cemetery. Yeah, and I'm trying to think what I was doing. I know what it was. We were asking. I'm trying to think of the question I asked. It was. I think I mentioned something like, "Can you hear me?" or "Can you talk?" or "Do you want to talk to me?" or "Do you want to speak to me?" And I said something like, "I said that's okay." I said sometimes I don't want to talk to people either. And the next thing I caught this whisper. We were actually, it was just me and my buddy Sean, my teammate, and I gotta remember what it said. It said something like, "I don't want to talk to anybody either," or something like that. I was like, "I don't want to talk to anybody either."
Wow.
And
You're like twinsies,
yeah. And I mean, obviously, I didn't know what I captured until I got home and reviewed the evidence. And I'm gonna tell you, I still I smile from ear to ear when I hear this, and when I talk about this, because when I first heard it, I'm like, oh my, oh, I got an EVP, holy shit, and I called Sean, I was like, Sean, I captured something, man. And he heard it, he heard it as well. And to this day, I always tell myself, don't ever forget where you came from, man. Don't ever forget that first EVP you captured. And I still get excited to this day when I captured EVP. It's just, man, it's like the first time when I hear something, I'm like, I just rewind it and I'm going, wow, that is so cool. And I still get so like a kid in a candy store, like the first time, and maybe not exactly like the first time, because I was like, whoa, but I still get so excited when I catch an EVP, and it's just like, I feel like it's the most intimate like piece of evidence that you can capture. I mean, we don't know how it works. I mean, does it take a lot of energy? Does it, do they zap? Do they weave in and out of our reality just at that split time to like record the voice? But regardless, it's like, man, they took time to speak to me. They took time to speak to me, little old me in this reality, whether it's spirits or whether it's, aliens, whether it's, somebody living in another dimension or somebody on another planet. We don't know really. We really don't know if it's ghosts or aliens or just an alternate reality, but they still took time to speak to me. And I find it just absolutely fascinating, man. I still do to this day.
So
they're going about their day and they're like, bah, I don't want to talk to people either. Listen.
Yeah, and something else I always thought about. When I was at the cemetery, if it's an alternate reality, this is something I've always thought about. Okay, I've captured children. There's this little kid that I captured in this, started catching him probably in 2018, 2019. And every time I go to that cemetery, Graceland Cemetery, in the same place, I capture that kid, and it sounds exactly the same. I'm like, well, what the world is a kid doing hanging out in the cemetery? And I thought to myself, well, what if, to my reality, it's a cemetery? What about if in his reality, it's his backyard or, his, or a playground or something, and I'm just tapping into that area? We don't know. That's what makes the paranormal so mysterious, is we really don't know what's really going on,
So
100%.
Philip, on that, what is your theory? What is it that you're catching, do you think? We all have different theories, nobody really knows, like you said. That's the excitement of getting us to come back to figure out what it is, right? What in your state of mind do you feel that an EVP, what is it catching? Is it a past life? Is it a future? Is it a different dimension? How do you feel about that?
I mean, I believe it could be all of the above. Where am I leaning towards? Man, that's a tough one. I mean, at first I thought definitely ghosts, 100%. No doubt. It's definitely, somebody from a past life. Now I'm drifting more, not only toward, ghosts and, spirits, but also, man, just, alternate realities. Absolutely,
man.
And alternate, parallel realities, paranormal, universes. And it's almost like, I don't know, something I thought about was, it's like and you probably heard the timelines just cross, and it's not like you're hearing these EVPs like all the time. It's just it's like all of a sudden you catch it, then it's gone.
Yep. Thinning of the veil, I think, is what we call it.
Yeah, and it's like, is it like just our realities just crossing, but it's weird how it's got to be open long enough to hear the question and for them to answer. Because I've had EVPs being answered, within a couple seconds, but I've also had EVPs being answered directly, and it takes 25, 30 seconds. So it's not like it's
instant. Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just so, I don't know. I want to say it's spirits, but man, I'm just leaning. I don't know. I think it could be a multitude of different things.
I agree with you, Philip. So if someone asked me the same question, I do think that there are times that we do kind of rub against a different reality. I've told the story where I used to live on a houseboat here in Minnesota, even though I live in Wisconsin, but in Minnesota for many years, year round. And I was stepping off my houseboat, and as I was stepping off, and I heard voices in the air that it was in the middle of winter. Should have been cold, but it was warm. And then I heard, I think he can hear us. So I do think
Wow.
that momentarily I did kind of cross in between sections, something like that. There's also been times that Raven and I have been in on investigation, and it's like the whole atmosphere shifts. It's like something happened, and
Yeah.
we just, I don't want to say another portal, but I do think that there are times when, the environment is correct, that
Mhm.
thing, timelines do kind of rub against each other. And, you do stop, and it is a full blown conversation, and they're unaware. And then all of a sudden they're aware that there's somebody else
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And I find that fascinating, which is, if it was a ghost just repeating a pattern, they're unaware, and you're just capturing, a glimpse in the past. I do think that there are times that, when Rave and I have done these interviews, that people have captured the future for some reason. You know, um, whether it be the Huron project, sometimes something's hits, and we are able to kind of listen to a different time frame.
Yeah. And yeah, it's a very, it's very peculiar. It's so hard. It's like I've had times where, you know, it just, you can, like you said, you feel something change, like the environment
Yep,
Yeah.
completely changes.
it
I've
does.
had that, I've had that feeling too. And like, I don't know, like almost like the pressure changes, I guess you can say.
Absolutely. We were
And
at
it's interesting though, because they've, a good buddy of mine, Brandon Alvis, he's actually did research on barometric pressure changes in the paranormal, and how railroads can change railroad tracks and trains go back and change the pressure inside of a house, which everybody says that you know trains, there's a lot of paranormal activity around trains,
Mhm.
and they as trains go by, it does change the pressure within an environment, which could cause paranormal activity. And I found that very interesting, because I've heard a lot of instances where depots and train stations are always really haunted places, and it might be something to that. I don't know. I'd like
Well,
to
I definitely think
investigate
that there's
more.
something to that, whether it be the tracks, because
Yeah,
a
the
lot of
energy.
paranormal activities do happen around the tracks. Trains are big, and they do pull a lot of electricity. When it
Yep.
goes by, you can feel it. So I mean, as we know, if we're on investigation and there's a power box that isn't done right,
Mm,
something's leaking, you can definitely feel that, and kind of gives
mm,
you the sensation that something's around you. So I'd definitely
Yeah.
say that there's
Yes.
something about that. What do you think, Raymond?
I think so for sure. I mean, you just mentioned power box. That's an interesting, and we know that that will change your mood, change what you think is going on around you. I
Yeah.
actually debunked. We had that story where I debunked. We have the Green Eye Bridge around us, and I'm almost certain that all of the experiences people have had, and no offense to anyone out there, but like I am certain that there is a power line. I mean, I know there's a power line that's there, and
It's just leaking.
the
Yeah.
yeah, the EMF detector, of course, is going crazy because it's hot. It's hot, it's got it, and so people are going to this bridge and seeing things and feeling things, and it's like, well, there's also a power line right there that's emitting, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
EMF. So it makes sense. It makes sense.
It does.
I
But we've also been in locations where you can feel the pressure change. That one house that we were at,
I
that's very
wasn't gonna.
popular in Kansas City.
I was
That
going to say not even the pressure change. It was like the entire mood of the
Yep.
house shifts. Like everything just changed to the point where like
And
you
it
just
just
felt it.
lasts. I'm sure you've experienced this, Philip. It lasts just seconds, but it feels like it feels like minutes.
Mm,
Because you're in this environment, and this environment is just crazy in your body, which I believe is the best instrument you can bring on an investigation, is telling you there's something wrong here.
And
mhm.
that's the thing, not only are we transmitters, but we also not only do we transmit frequency, we receive frequencies and we can
Oh,
feel them.
absolutely.
And that goes to show you when we feel these things. Some people are more, I think some people are just too busy to like notice things like that. But
Yeah.
when you're there and you're like, when you're here to notice these things, you feel them more. And your frequencies, man, it's all about frequencies, man. It's all around us, and there's, we're open to it. We're transmitters and we also transmit them. So, or we also, absorb the frequencies too. So, going to these locations, like you said, it's good to kind of sit down and just feel the location for a few minutes to kind of.
Yeah, you have to. You have to get that baseline. When first thing we do before we investigate a property is we walk around it. How does it feel? How is it supposed to feel? What are the normal creaking that happens? What environmental noises are around us? I think you have to, because then you can eliminate. Like when you're doing EVPs, you can eliminate the sounds. You're like, yeah, that's the furnace kicking in, and that's the heat ducts expanding and shrinking, and so I think it's one of those things that you have to do your due diligence, right? I mean,
do your based on EMFs and stuff like that. Just kind of sense where and to sense where all these different EMF spikes are, and get your baselines, and you'll know where you can use a device. You'll know where you shouldn't use one. For instance, taking an EMF meter and right near a power box. I'm not going to use EMF in there. I'm not going to use anything. Test the equipment in areas before you go out, before you get your investigation started. That way, you know where to put these devices and where not to use them. And that's, I think a lot of people make that mistake. They just go in there, and put the REM pods down, and they go in and put the EMF meters, near anywhere, and they start getting these spikes. They're like, oh, paranormal, but they're constantly going off. It's like, you got to think, okay, why is it constantly going off for?
Yeah, there's something up with that, right?
Yeah.
So
I was one of those people back. I was one of those people back in the day when I first started. I was.
We all were, Philip. We all were.
I took pictures of my EMF meter going off.
Right.
Having my phone taking a picture of my EMF meter with a little green orb by. I'm like, oh, I caught an orb. No, that was just now that I go there, I'm going, okay, that was the reflection from my camera flash hitting the screen of the EMF recorder. And my phone triggering the EMF recorder, so, that's, you learn that over the years, you just got to learn it, and take it and use it. And,
So when we talk about, we'll go back to your EVPs and your experiences with those. Let's talk about the best capture that you've had. I know we talked about your first one, but I really want to touch on maybe something that really surprised you, or something that you just were not expecting. Like maybe you went to a place and it was real quiet all night, but you got that one EVP.
The most, to this day, I've been doing this for 9 years, and this one's easy. Monroe House. We just left. It was 2021. Myself, Sean, and an old teammate, Lisa. We went to Randolph County Asylum, and we did that on a Saturday or Sunday night. But that's not important. But we investigated there all night at the Randolph. And we also booked the Monroe House for the next day, which is about an hour away, which is Randolph's in Winchester, Hartford, and the Monroe House is in Hartford City, Indiana. So Lisa went home. She had to work that day, so she drove. And me and Sean went ahead and went to the Monroe House. We got there, called up Eddie and Pam, the owners of the Monroe House. Great, great people. If you ever get a chance to get down here to Indiana, book the Monroe House. You will not be disappointed. So we got there about noon, opened the doors. I said, all right, Sean, we'll go and start bringing my stuff in. I brought my boxes in. I brought all my equipment in. And we sit down for a second. We were tired. We were investigating all night at Randolph. So we kind of decided to, chill out there for a little bit for about, half an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, just kind of sitting there relaxing, just kind of talking, just talk about, the night at Randolph. And so about an hour later, I said, all right, Sean, I'll go ahead and I'm going to start bringing my equipment in. Okay. So went outside and started grabbing equipment. There's a table. When you walk in the door, if you walk straight ahead, there's a table. So I put my box down there. And as soon as I flipped the box open, To the right, there's a kitchen, and the door was open, and there's 2 doors in the kitchen. One leads back around the back part of the house, and then one leads into an old bathroom. So I flipped the box open, and next thing you know, I heard this. It sounded like somebody took the door in the kitchen and grabbed the door knob and just started shaking the hell out of it. I mean, literally like they were trying to pull the door off the hinges. And I stopped, and I looked over at Sean. I said, "Dude, you hear that?" He's like, "Yeah, dude, it sounded like somebody trying to shake that door off the hinges." So I mean, the investigator and me grabbed my recorder and ran in the kitchen. Tried to, get that piece of audio. Caught nothing. So we were just thinking about that all night. I was like, Sean said, "Well, man," I said, "Well, I'm gonna go and take my cameras upstairs. I'm gonna start putting the cameras upstairs." He said, "Well, man, before we go upstairs, I'm gonna put this recorder. I'm gonna put this recorder down by the door. We heard that door going crazy. I want to put a recorder down it before we leave." Fine, makes total sense. Put the recorder down. We went upstairs, did our investigation, all that stuff. We went home, started going through the evidence. I was walking my dog outside, and Sean called me. He called me P Dog. He said, "P Dog, man, dude, man, that recorder downstairs in the kitchen. I think I caught a baby crying, man." I said, "A baby crying, really?" He said, "Yeah." I said, You sure it wasn't, a cat outside?" Or he said, "No, dude, you need to hear this." He said, I'll clip it and send it to you. It's okay. So took the dogs for the walk, came back in, and I saw his audio sent to me. And I listened to it, and my jaw literally just hit the floor. I'm like, "You got to be kidding me." You hear, it lasts about 15 seconds long probably, and you hear this crying baby. There is absolutely no doubt about what it is. No pareidolia. I don't care what anybody says. I will put this up against any piece of audio I've ever heard in my life. And it was a baby crying, or not really crying, it was more like fussing. It didn't sound like it was being hurt. It didn't sound like it, it's just, it's hard to explain. You have to hear it to really understand what I'm saying. But you heard the first, like, the little, fuss. Then you hear a woman in the background say something. You hear the woman, like, whispering, like, "Daddy did something," or "Daddy said something." I can't remember what it said, and then you hear the baby cooing again for another 5 or 6 seconds. He lets out this one little fuss, and it's over.
Wow.
This is in this kitchen.
Cool. Yeah.
This was like, dude, I was floored. I sent Eddie and Pam, the owners of the Monroe House, a copy, and she just went, "You got to be kidding me." She said, "Eddie is not," because he does a lot of repairs on the house. He was trying to flip it at the time and sell it. He ain't selling it now, unless he sells it to, like, a paranormal enthusiast. But she said, "Eddie is not going to want to go back in that house and do any kind of repairs." But here's this. And what just sent it completely over the edge was later on that night, she said, "Phil, I want to send you something, but you cannot post it to the public because the mother is still alive and living in Hartford City." So she said, "But you just got to promise you don't post it to social media, or don't, because it's not, we don't want to do that." An obituary of a baby who died in the Monroe House 20 years ago to that day.
Wow.
What?
Yes.
Wow.
It's now been made public. It was in a documentary recently. It's been posted in Matt. Which documentary was it? Evil on Earth. Yeah, the Monroe House documentary. He released that in that documentary, the information about the baby 20 years to the day passed away from SIDS. And the reason why we couldn't say anything because the mother is still alive in Hartford City, living there, and she was so freaked out when she watched the episode of Paranormal Lockdown with Katrina and Nick calling it a demon house. She's like, "My baby is still in the house." She said, "I've heard my baby crying. I heard my baby in the house after." He
Wow.
passed away when I lived there still. And she said it just literally like terrified her when she heard that the house was labeled the demon house. And she said it just terrified her. She know her baby. She heard her baby in that house before, after that, and it's just like, oh my gosh. And
That is
yeah, it's been released in the public. It's been, like I said, it's been in a documentary, and stuff like that. So it's
that
that
is a
that
crazy story.
that is the absolute most, I want to say, chilling, intriguing, bizarre. I mean, all the other words you can think of, discriminatory or describatory words, and all wrapped up in one that I've ever captured, that I've ever heard. And yeah, it's that today is still my best piece of audio that I've ever captured. I've had a few other really, really good ones, like really, really good ones, but that takes. And I've heard a baby twice in a house, actually in multiple rooms. One was in the basement, and then twice in the kitchen. Yeah, and then a moaning woman crying her eyes out, like just literally distraught, and two conversations going on in the kitchen. One spirit you can hear saying, "You're calling this person terrible, terrible," and then the other one goes, "The earth can't hear us. Like the earth can't hear us. The earth can't hear us." And I'm just going, "What is he talking? The earth can't hear us. Where's he coming? Where's he speaking to us from, man?" I just wish I could just feed you guys with this audio, let you guys put it on your show, and let people
I mean,
hear it, man.
send me over.
But
So
yeah,
no,
the
that's
Monroe House of the
fascinating.
Crying Baby was the most intriguing piece of audio I've ever captured before, and to this day, not one has even come close.
Well, I think catching a crying baby is a little disturbing in itself, because, as a parent, you kind of want to help by a
Mm.
baby crying, so, to me that's a little disturbing. And, is it a baby? Or, as we know, things come to us sideways sometimes, whether it be something a little bit more, with not so much good intentions.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
that's always a way to call people as well. So, have you ever caught anything that you questioned the tactics behind it?
You mean like like saying making like a baby, but it's not really a baby. You might be something
Absolutely, that's
else.
what I'm saying. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let me think. Have I ever captured anything that would make me seem like he's playing?
Well,
You
you kinda
know,
knew that, I mean, so there's this house that's in Kansas City, and it's a child, a female child, and I don't think it's a female child. I think it's something disguising itself as a female child because, it's hard to be scared of a female child, so
yeah,
you're more drawn to be able to communicate with it. Well, I think, when it comes to things that are a little bit more evil, things come to you sideways, so
it could. Yeah. You know what? I don't know. At the top of my head, I can't think of anything.
well, that's
I
alright.
guess if there is one, I guess the baby would be one. I mean, if you're trying to like suck us into like, you know, I don't know. At the time, at the moment, I can't think of one that I would claim that maybe I was being misled. Um, I did have my first and last name called at a cemetery once.
Oh,
That
jeez.
was on a spirit box though, so I mean that's.
Still
Um,
disturbing.
I mean, it was clear as day. I mean, I've had some experiences on the SB11 that I can't explain. I mean, I let a fart. I let a fart, and we just got an eating Burger King. We had gas. We were passing gas in an old jail in Warsaw, Indiana, and I ripped a big fart. Man, it was just brutal. And I got called Stinky like immediately. He said Stinky, and I'm going, oh,
They
really?
called you out.
Really?
They called you out. Um,
Yeah. So,
I do want to
but
say though, there is the possibility that it's not necessarily like the baby is not necessarily like something like malevolent. It could also just be residual. It could just
yeah,
be, the fact that there was a baby there. Babies we know make noises and fuss and like it just could be
yeah,
that you're getting that residual energy. Um, but I also want to point out the fact that, the mom was very distraught about the fact that this house is now called, like the demon house
yeah,
and or whatever.
Yep.
And yet, her it is a possibility that the ghost of the baby is still in that house. So that has to be really hard for her to have
Yeah.
heard that, like imagine like that, that you had this experience and
Yeah, it's hard to say if it was residual or if it's intelligent because we weren't there asking questions.
right.
We had to record it downstairs by the door. We went upstairs, so um, yeah, so it could be residual. I mean, we don't know. I mean, it's one of the things. I'll be honest with you. Most of the EVPs I capture are like intelligent and are answering questions
Mhm.
because I run a lot of. Everybody's like, how you capture? You capture a lot of evidence. How you capture? I literally run audio all the time. So it's your odds of catching something are better if you run your audio a lot more. I mean, most people don't. They might run it for 10, 15 minutes at a time and turn it off and then run it for. If you're only recording, an hour worth of audio, you probably your odds of catching something are probably not that good. But I run mine literally the whole time I'm investigating, and so it's just about a matter of odds. The more audio you run, the better chance you're going to get to capture capture an EVP.
Absolutely, Phil.
That
So
goes with video too, though, when you think about it, just run things all night. You might
run
catch
all night, and that's what that's what I do. I keep it, like I said, my Zoom recorder stays on me all the time, and I'm always recording audio. And like I said, I use the technique just treating the residents of the whatever house I'm in or location with absolute respect and
Oh, yeah.
they I they it's yielded good results for me. I haven't been punched in the face or I haven't been thrown down the stairs. So
Well,
I
the
guess
nice
that's a
thing
good
is,
thing. I
you know.
mean,
So let's switch gears for a second. Now, I love it that you point your camera to the sky because it's such a huge environment to try to catch something else. Have you ever captured anything that you're like, there's something out there?
no, no, no. I've never captured any UFO. I mean, I've seen satellites and I've seen meteors and stuff like that. And I'm always looking up. When I'm out
Oh,
there
yeah.
under the stars, just admiring. I got a place here in Warsaw or in Ligonier. It's a place in Lagrange. It's about an hour away. Really dark sky. They measure sky darkness in what they call Bortle ratings. It goes from like 9 to 1 is like the Bortle scale, which measures the darkness of the sky. The one I go to is a 3.5, so it's a pretty dark sky. And so I'm sitting there looking up and seeing thousands of stars, and I'm just in awe. I got my music playing, I got my snacks on the table, and listen to some Pink Floyd or listen to some good space music or something. And but I look up in the sky and I look up all the time, and I have never seen anything that like, wow, what was that? Like I said, satellites, planes,
Yeah.
meteors. I've seen some pretty cool meteors out there for sure.
Oh, sure.
And thousands of stars, but nothing I would say UFO or anything weird. So
I have a
Do you
stupid
believe in
question.
UFOs, Philip?
Oh,
what's that?
Do you believe in UFOs?
I mean, I believe there's definitely life, and I definitely believe that we're not the only life out there or in the universe. We are proof that it can happen, and the universe is huge. So absolutely, I believe in there's things out there that we can't explain. Absolutely, 100%,
It seems
100%.
like a horrible waste of space if we're the only ones. We're so flawed. If we're the only ones out there, that seems.
I always say that if my buddy and my buddy always said if there's UFOs, if there are aliens, that we're like that they just roll their window up and lock their hatches as they drive by, or
I would.
but absolutely, I believe there's 100% that there's life on other planets somewhere in the universe. There's got to be out there just by mere numbers and just probabilities. I mean, I think you would be naive to not believe that there's something out, that there's not something else out there.
I agree.
So yeah, I definitely believe there's craft out there that we're not expecting. There's a lot of craft that the government's out, testing and as well. But yeah, I do believe, yeah, absolutely.
That's
you said
fantastic.
something.
So
You
go
said
ahead,
something
Rick.
very. No, it's just so stupid, but I have to say it because it's me. You said you go out and you watch the night sky and you play your music, and then you said Pink Floyd, and so I was questioning whether you're listening to Dark Side of the Moon as you're staring up into the abyss.
Actually, Salts Are Full of Secrets, actually. Yeah, and, their second album.
I had to.
But
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
I've listened to Dark Side of the Moon out there too. But I've listened to a lot of, I got some, like, a lot of ambient, like, new age, like, space music. It's called the Galaxy Voyager, something like that. It's like a playlist. So I listen to that. There's no lyrics. It's just nice, space relaxing music. But also, like I said, I listen to Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, and Saucer Full of Secrets and stuff like that. And yeah. So.
What are you looking for when you're looking up?
Nebula, galaxies. I haven't photographed any galaxies yet. The weather in Indiana really sucks in the wintertime. And I don't have a lot of, I don't have the focal length of my lenses to really get in close to a galaxy. But I have photographed one galaxy. I photographed the Bodes galaxy, which is about 11 million light years away. I photographed it with a 300 millimeter Canon lens, and it's not that big on my lens. I mean, if you're going to get really close into that lens, you'll have to, your focal length, which is like measures the distance that the lens goes. Mine was 300 millimeter, with the crop sensor is about 480 millimeters. You have to get into the thousands to really get a good close up, picture of a galaxy, unless it's Andromeda. Andromeda, if you use a 300 millimeter lens, it would probably fill almost the whole screen up. And I also use a 135 millimeter lens. That is great for like wide field. So you get to capture the Orion Nebula, Barnard's Loop. You can capture the belt stars and all that stuff in the fire or the Flame Nebula, and it's all can be captured in one picture because it's such a wide view picture. But yeah, I look for nebula, galaxies. I've photographed the Pleiades before, the Pleiades star system, which is my absolute favorite nighttime sky object. I have a connection with the Pleiades, man. There's just something like it screams home to me. It's weird.
Oh.
But yeah.
From there.
Yeah. So, but I haven't captured it with a big lens yet. I'm gonna do that this year.
Were you able to capture the 3-eye atlas as it flew by?
No.
That would have been cool.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't. I never did. But I've captured the North American Nebula. I've captured. I've captured. My buddy was walking by.
Hi, buddy.
I captured the North American Nebula, the Bodes Galaxy, the Orion Nebula, and the Satyr region, which is where the Satyr star region is. A lot of H alpha, gases, and that. So it's a lot of red, flowing gases. But I've captured a lot of this stuff in the past. Like the Satyr region I captured, I've had a chance to hone in my skills. I guess you say I've had a little bit more experience under my belt. So it's a lot better than some of my old stuff, like my Orion Nebula, and better processing. And, and now that I'm getting, more experience at it, I can try more techniques and kind of better my experience, better in my images. And I've got new filters, and I've recently purchased some new filters so I can photograph more often and in more light polluted skies. So I live near a city which has a boreal sky of 7, so it's pretty bright. Which is, like I said, about an hour away from where I used to go. But driving an hour in the middle of the week is kind of rough when you got to work at 5. Get up at 5 o'clock next morning. So it kind of takes away. Yeah. So it kind of takes away my ability, my opportunities. So by getting this filter, it kind of allows me to go really pretty much out in my yard and just start photographing. If I want to, if I get a knack to want to go out and take a photograph, go out and do, an hour's worth of photograph. I can just take my tracker out there and get an hour's worth of data and go back in and go to bed, and I can, it gives me a chance to get my little kick, my little fix in of the night sky. But yeah, it's so I just I'm just getting more experience with it, and trying to do better each time and figure out what I did wrong and try to fix it the next time. And it's just part of the it's part of the whole experience is
Absolutely.
get out there and mess up a little bit and figure out what you
Right.
did wrong so you don't do it again.
Phil,
Right.
how do people find you? Being an investigator and also, looking up to the stars. Do you have a website? How do people find you if they want to find out more about you?
Just my personal Facebook page. I haven't. I really. I used to have a. I used to have like a little Facebook page I used to use called Heart of the Universe, but that was just posting, just articles about space and stuff like that. I haven't started anything as far as like my work. So usually when I post things, it's just on my personal page.
Okay.
Philip Gibson, you can find it on there. Like she has, like I said, she knows, where I'm at, and
Yeah, we're
um,
Facebook friends now.
yeah. So I don't have a YouTube, or I don't have anything like that. Just my personal page. That's about it. I'll post things on there and post audio and post pictures and stuff like that, and just share my experiences with my friends and everybody that that wants to kind of see it, and hopefully they hopefully they get and get excited about it just as much as I am. So
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah,
Phil,
you've definitely been very like you're definitely
yeah,
very passionate about what you do,
oh
and
passion's
man,
good.
appreciate that.
Passion's good.
I love it. I love what I do. I love the pair, and it was two totally different spectrums of hobby. Although it's both under my. I always say my playground is the dark. The dark is my playground. The night, the darkness is my playground. That's what I always say, because it is, whether it's in a haunted location and a dark haunted location or under a dark sky. That's where I take my passions to.
Well, I love that. Well, Raven, do we have anything else going on? What are we doing this month?
Well, I was gonna say besides all of our awesome interviews, like our one that we just did here with Philip, we
Well, we're
have,
still
of course.
interviewing Philip.
I know, but I just said it was awesome.
Yeah.
I thought you were awesome. Okay, just let it happen, Gabriel. Just let it happen. Um, awesome interviews every Thursday and Sunday at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time. But besides that, something else that I'm super excited about is our great big trip to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania at the
Gettysburg,
end of the month. We
Pennsylvania.
are going to be
Yes.
at Parajam with
Pear
our good
Jam.
friend Chris Boggs and Nick, and I'm not going to remember Nick's last name, but they're from the
Sorry, Nick.
Black Lantern Paranormal.
Yep, heard of
They
them.
are
Yeah.
they're amazing, and we get to go see them and get to spend some time at Parajam. It is on August 29th. So, of course, like we will be posting and, telling everybody what we're doing, and of course, get
We'll go live.
some investigating in while
Yeah.
we're there. So, that's what we got going on this month. Super exciting stuff.
Well, what a fantastic conversation, Phil. Thank you for spending your evening with us and for sharing your experiences, your investigations, and your passion, which you definitely have for both the paranormal and astrophotography. It's always refreshing to speak with someone who never quite stops asking questions and continues searching for answers, whether inside a haunted location or beneath a sky full of stars. Thank you once again to my co-host, Raven Knight, for another outstanding
Raven. Thank
discussion.
you, Raven. Thank you, Gabriel.
Don't encourage her. A special thanks
You already said
to
it. It's too
you,
late.
our
Too late. Too
sponsors,
late.
3J Hot Sauce, and don't encourage her, man. Unbiased Media, and finally, thank you to everyone, every single one of you who are watching from around the country and around the world. If you've enjoyed tonight's episode, please like, follow, subscribe, and share your show. Every share helps us reach someone who's just beginning their journey into the unknown. Until next time, I, of course, your humble host, Gabriel Vaughn Graves, and this has been Darkwoods Paranormal. Remember, the greatest mysteries aren't always found in haunted houses. Sometimes they're waiting above us among the stars, and sometimes they're waiting much closer than you realize. Stay curious, stay aware, and above all, do stay safe out there. Thank you very much, Philip.